Hi, this is Pete, or Kenshin1913, and this is another Getting to Know Kenshin1913. Yep, it's been a long time since I've done one of these. I've decided to try and start vlogging once again, and figure I'd start on a topic that I like a lot lately. Ever since whenever Game of Thrones came out, the TV show, ever since then, I've started reading books again. I picked up A Song of Ice and Fire, and I read those books, and I tore through them, and they were awesome. And that kind of ignited my love of reading again. So, pretty much that's one thing that you might or might not have known about me, is that I love to read now. I think reading is a very important thing that people should do, whether it be reading books, like literal books, whether it being reading or hearing them on like an audiobook, or checking them out on a Kindle or a Kindle app or an ebook or whatever. I really think it's really important for people to read and continue to expand their own knowledge base, in the essence of like just learning new things or understanding different things and such. So I'm just going to quickly go through some of the books that I've read. Now remember, this is within the past like maybe 3 years I've read all these books, and we're just going to start with some of the classics that I read, And one of the major influences, by the way, is this show on YouTube which is called Thug Notes. They basically are doing like a Crib Notes or a Spark Notes, but for books and stuff, and it's really, really good. And so I started off with some of the classics like 1984. It's probably one of my favorite books of all time now. I didn't read it in high school. Like a lot of people ask, hey, didn't you read this in high school? I didn't, and I read it, and this is probably one of my favorite books of all time now. George Orwell. It's about a guy living in a dystopian future with a totalitarian government, Big Brother, and all that stuff. Another book that I'm reading or read is Fahrenheit 451. Again, these are books that apparently you were supposed to read in school. I didn't end up reading them. I actually enjoy books about like dystopian futures for some reason. I don't know why. But yeah, this one's really good. If you get a chance, check it out. Let me know what books you've read too. Brave New World, good book. This isn't a dystopian future, but it sort of is in the essence of like what is it? Like it's a utopian future, but it's sort of like all messed up and stuff. And it's a really good book. Again, I don't think this was one that we read in high school, but I picked it up because actually this is more of a recommendation book, but it's still a classic. But yeah, I listened to a couple of podcasts about like one guy's Greg Proops. He's the comedian Greg Proops, and he kind of like recommends books and stuff. And one of the books he recommended was that, and I read it, and I'm like, oh yeah, this totally makes sense. Like the two, 1984 and Brave New World, are kind of like polar opposites in the way of how humans might be like controlled and stuff. But yeah, I really think that it's a good idea to read books and stuff. Also, I'm just gonna, like I said, I got various categories. I'm just gonna go through them really quick. I know it's kind of like, he's showing us all these books, but yeah, it's just a good idea to like read books. So like these are like recommendation books. Like I've been recommended to read these books by various people, like either through podcasts or like people personally who said, man, you should read that book. So this one's called The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. It's pretty much just like a way to try to gain some power, like either in the workplace or in your own life. Not power like I'm gonna grab it from people, but just like kind of stories about people and how they like gained the upper hand on certain things. And there was a point when I was like at work, and I'm like, I'm sick of working as a peon. I'd like to learn how to become like maybe a manager or something, or stop feeling like such a peon. But yeah, good book. So You've Been Publicly Shamed. Very good book. It's pretty relevant right now. It's about basically being publicly shamed on the internet. I kind of read it because I heard again by this one was by the Joe Rogan podcast and Mark Maron. podcast. They were talking about just like being publicly shamed. They had this guy on, and it just sounded like a pretty awesome book. So I ended up reading it. Really good book. Really good book. Then I got John Garner's Grendel, because one of the things that I did love back in high school was reading about Beowulf. So I heard that through Thug Notes that this book exists, and then I was like, oh man, I want to read it and see what Grendel's side of the story was. And it was a good book. It wasn't too bad. Again, it takes, if you like Beowulf, you'll probably like this, because it's kind of like the opposite side, and it's just a really good book. I'll probably end up saying that about most of them. Cormac McCarthy, I got Blood Meridian. This was a book that was recommended to me by Greg Proops. Granted, he didn't say, hey, Pete, read Blood Meridian, but he did recommend this book. And, yeah, it's a terrific book. It's a little bit of a hard read because there's not a lot of punctuation, and you don't know who's talking or who's, what's going on. Well, not that you don't know what's going on, but you don't know who's talking and stuff. He doesn't have quotation marks, so it can be a tough read, but man, oh man, is it a great book. Really, really good book. So that's like, that's some stuff like I'm a huge advocate, like I was mentioning, of reading, of, definitely taking the time out of your schedule to take maybe 20 minutes just to read a book. I try to read about 10, 15 pages a day of whatever book I'm reading. And just kind of whether it be, like I said, audio book, you can listen to it. It's just to ingest more information and try to expand your mind a little bit. And some of the other things that I like to read are like comedians' books, like Mark Maron. Since I follow his podcast, WTF, he was promoting his book, and I said, what the hell, I'll buy it. And it was a good read. Now, none of these books are kind of like deep books, but they're just funny because, like Jim Gaffigan, Dad is Fat, and Jim Gaffigan's Food, a Love Story, because Gaffigan's one of my favorite comedians. And like Greg Proops, he came out with his own book, and I ended up buying it, the smartest book in the world. And in that book, he even recommends stuff. But so I buy books from the comedians that I enjoy, and not only does that help them out a little bit. Since I listen to most of their podcasts for free, it's a nice way to give back, and they're actually very entertaining and funny. So, you're not looking for anything super thought-provoking. You're just kind of looking for humorous stories and stuff like that. And then I went old school because my daddy's from Italy, and he's a Roman. So I decided to read the Iliad by Homer, classic. Don Quixote, which is a huge book, by the way. Look how big this friggin' book is. It's a good read, though. The first book is really good. The other two are kind of there, but it's just a really good read. It's a classic. I don't think you read this in high school. Hell, maybe in college if you're taking literature or whatever. And then I just finished this book, The Aeneid, which is the story of. Have you ever seen that movie Troy? That's one thing that I really like about books is most of the time I'll be watching a movie and then I heard it was based on a book, and then I'm like, you know what? I wonder if that book is any good. Usually it's the other way around. People read the book and then the movie comes out and they're like, oh yeah, the book was much better. But in this case, I usually watch movies and then do stuff like that. But anyways. So, yeah, the Iliad, if you've ever seen that movie Troy with Brad Pitt, basically that's what's happening. It's the Trojan War, the Greeks versus the Trojans in a battle to get Helen of Troy back. And then the Aeneid is basically the last survivors of Troy, Aeneas. He goes on his own little journey and basically is one of the founders, basically one of the ancestors of the founders of Rome, which is pretty cool. This is by Virgil. And then Don Quixote's he's the crazy old knight guy, or just some crazy old man. He thinks he's a knight and he goes fighting off in the world and all that. It's pretty cool. It's a good book. And then another thing about reading is like I said before, you want to read about maybe you read books that you wanted or movies that you saw like this one's called Partners of the Heart, but it's pretty much what the hell is the name of the movie? Something the Lord Made was the name of the movie. Anywho's, I read this because I was like interested in. This is about Vivian Thomas, who was one of the probably the first black doctor, and he helped Dr. Alfred Blaylock like perform the first heart surgery and stuff. So I thought that was interesting. The movie was really good, so I was like, I want to read about him. And then the other one was Cloud Atlas. I might be the only person in the world that really enjoyed the movie Cloud Atlas that came out a couple of years ago. So I was like, let me see what the hell the book's all about. And I checked it out, and it's not a bad read. It's pretty good. I love how it all connects together. Although I actually think the movie's a little bit better in the way that it connects everything. But yeah, it's just an interesting way to like broaden your mind and get things going. And then of course you gotta read some books that like you're interested in yourself. Like, you know, maybe you have an interest in something like some sort of arts and crafts or a movie, and there might be a book about a movie, or hell, even a period in time. So lastly, here's this group of books. I love the movie The Princess Bride, and eventually I am going to buy The Princess Bride, the actual book, and read it myself. So I bought this one. It's basically Carrie Elwell's his like behind the scenes take on the whole Princess Bride thing. Hockey in New Haven, that's a personal one for me because you know, I live in West Haven, Connecticut, and yeah, New Haven used to be a hockey town for a while, or at least they had hockey, and it was awesome to go see it. So it's kind of cool to look back. Yeah, this guy here, I don't know why, I've always had an obsession with Rasputin. I don't know why, but yeah, so I decided to read a book about him, and what I try to do is try to find the most definitive copy of someone's life rather than, checking out other stuff. You know, like checking out other things. Another guy that I'm obsessed with is Nikola Tesla. It's a good book. It's long. It pretty much details like every aspect of his life, but it was a good read because I always like Tesla. I'm always like one of those guys who likes the underdog, and so I'm a huge Tesla fan, and I want to know more about him. So I read this book. It was good. I mean, you can always go to like a wiki or whatever, but whatever. Yugo, another book that is like near and dear to my heart because my dad had a Yugo, so I wanted to see what, there was a book about a Yugo, so I was like, I gotta get it because I gotta read it. And it's actually quite interesting on how Yugo started. And then The Fault in Our Stars. Yeah, I know. You can yell at me or bitch at me that I'm reading a young adult's book about star-crossed lovers or whatever, or teenagers or whatever. But the thing about this book is, I don't know. I was reading a review on it, and some like made me want to get it. And it's a good book, and that's the thing about like, oh, what book should I read? One of my buddies, Rob, he said, hey man, read whatever you want as long as you're reading. So that's something that I'm like, you know what, I'm not gonna be like, because I always used to think to myself, like, is it weird that I'm like a middle-aged fella reading like a young adult's novel? And it's not weird. It's not weird. I was like, oh man, I enjoy this book a lot, and then it's just kind of crazy. So yeah, I just want to show off just two books that I read. A Walk in Eternity. That's a book that I read, ebook. See, so even if you can't read it the regular way, you could still read it. You could still read it through your book. Let me just pull up this one here. And yeah, this one is called Gabriel Thorne, A Fairy's Tale. Yeah, this was an excellent book too. But yeah, so it's great that you can like read you can read online and all that stuff, and it's pretty awesome, and how they even have things where they'll read it to you. So it's like there's no reason why you can't like just read it. I mean, this is kind of like a reading awareness video, I guess, if there is one. But yeah, it's one thing that I like to do now. I like to read, and it's not a little bad thing to do every once in a while. And so finally, the book that I'm reading now, if you're watching the video when I upload it, is Thug Notes, the Thug Notes book. It's pretty much just like I was mentioning before, it's pretty much just a Spark Notes version, but with like a kind of like an urban feel to it, and like I love the channel because it breaks down books really good in like simple ways and stuff. And I understand them better. And actually, these guys and the comedians that I was talking about earlier, Jim Gaffigan, well, not Jim Gaffigan, but these guys, Greg Proops, Mark Maron, and Joe Rogan, the Joe Rogan podcast. Those are all like podcasts where I've been inspired. They've talked about books to read, and I've been inspired to start reading different books from various genres. So whenever I like watch a movie or like anything like that, I sometimes I'm like looking up what book I should read. Like, oh, what should I read next? Like one of the books I'm thinking about reading, since I love the movie The Warriors, is the book The Warriors. And it was actually based off a book, so I didn't know that. So I might end up picking that up. So that's pretty it for getting to know Kenshin 1913. I know it was kind of long. And I actually do have a bunch of other topics I'm going to be talking about, so you can get to know me a little more. And I'll start to upload those eventually too. But yeah, I think you guys should try to get out there and read a book, even if it is manga, like I have here. Alright? And I'm not ashamed to admit that I read cute cat manga. Alright? But yeah, I think if everyone read a book or at least attempted to read again, maybe the world wouldn't be as crazy. So, anyways, in the video or below in the comment section, leave some like I don't know what the hell the word is. Leave some stuff. Yeah, stuff. Just leave stuff on the bottom, whatever, and maybe tell me your favorite book, or maybe you have a recommendation for a book that maybe I'd like or whatever. Judging from the books that I showed off, yeah, maybe you have a recommendation for a book that I might read, or if maybe we can get a discussion about books that we enjoy, that we both enjoy, and stuff like that. So, yeah, leave a comment in the comment section below, and let me know what books you like to read. So this has been Pete, or Kenshin1913, and this has been another Getting to Know Kenshin1913. It's back, baby.